Hello everyone, and welcome to our next language learning lesson video. In this language lesson, we are going to be discussing another important topic, and that is modes of transportation in Spanish. This is going to be an important topic to discuss because if you are traveling to another area and you're speaking Spanish, it's going to be important to be able to discuss and identify different modes of transportation, especially if you're trying to get around. So let's go ahead and get started by talking about some of the most common modes of transportation and how to identify them. Okay, so first on our list, we have actually two words for the same thing, and they are el coche, and el carro, el carro. Okay, so el coche and el carro both mean car. So that would just be your traditional passenger vehicle, your traditional car. And you could use either one of these phrases to describe that. Now, some of them are more commonly used in other areas than others. So one might be used in one part of the world or a little bit more than the other. But in general, both of these words both mean car. So next, let's go ahead and look at another mode of transportation. This is another really popular one, especially if you maybe don't have your own transportation in a particular area and you are trying to get around from place to place. This is a pretty easy way to do it. And that would be pronounced el taxi, el taxi. So that would be a taxi. So that would just be your traditional taxi cab. So if you want to get from one end of the city to the other, you might take a taxi. So that would be el taxi. Okay, let's look at our next mode of transportation. This is another really common mode of public transportation, and that would be el autobús. El autobús. And that would just be a bus. A lot of times bigger cities will have bus transportation to get around. You might be able to take a bus to another place. But el autobús would just be your traditional bus transportation. Okay, and next we actually have a very specific type of bus, and this would be el autobús escolar. So once again, that is el autobús escolar, and that would be a school bus. So again, this is another type of bus transportation, but very specific type of bus. This is usually used to transport kids to and from school. But once again, this would be el autobús escolar to describe a school bus. All right, so next, let's go ahead and look at our next mode of transportation. This is typically used for medical transportation. You see these on the road quite a lot. And that would be pronounced la ambulancia. La ambulancia. So that would be an ambulance. Once again, this is one that we hope we don't have to ride in, but this is one that you will see on the road pretty frequently. And again, that would be described as la ambulancia. All right, next, let's go ahead and look at our next mode of transportation. We have el tren. El tren. And that would be a train. So once again, this is another really common mode of transportation, especially if you're going some longer distances. A lot of times countries will have cross-country trains, but once again, el tren would be a train. All right, so next, actually, this is another one of our emergency vehicles that we are looking at here, and that would be el carro de bomberos. So once again, that is el carro de bomberos. So that would be a fire truck. So once again, you'll see these on the road quite frequently, and this is another one of our emergency first responder vehicles. And once again, that is pronounced el carro de bomberos. All right, next, let's take a look at another mode of transportation. This one is typically a pretty fun mode of transportation, especially if you remember doing this when you were a kid. And this would be pronounced el scooter. Once again, that is el scooter, and that would be a scooter. All right, again, another pretty fun mode of transportation would be la bicicleta. Once again, that is la bicicleta, and that would be a bicycle. All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about air travel now. So if you are traveling by air, most likely you are going to be in el avión. El avión. And that would be an airplane. So airplanes are really popular modes of travel now, modes of transportation. And like I said, once again, if you are traveling by air or a very long distance, you are most likely going to be traveling by el avión. All right. Once again, let's talk about another mode of air travel and air transportation. This was a little less popular than our typical airplane. But once again, let's go ahead and look at el helicóptero. Once again, that is el helicóptero. And that would be a helicopter. So again, another mode of air transportation for getting around. I know sometimes they will use helicopters for giving sightseeing tours around a certain city. So it's just another mode of kind of getting around, and sometimes it's used for some sightseeing as well. All right. So next, let's go ahead and look at our next mode of transportation. This is another mode of road transportation, and this would be la motocicleta. Once again, that is la motocicleta, and that is a motorcycle. You'll notice that the cicleta part is very similar to bicicleta, which would be our bicycle. So again, they both end with cycle. But again, la motocicleta would be how you would describe a motorcycle in Spanish. And this language learning lesson video has been brought to you by Remote Language Online Learning. I hope you enjoyed this lesson on modes of transportation in Spanish. And if so, please be sure to like the video down below. Also subscribe to the Remote Language channel. And you can check us out on our other forms of social media as well, including Facebook and Pinterest. Once again, don't forget to subscribe to the Remote Language channel to stay on top of the latest language learning lesson videos. Thank you so much for following along with us today. I hope this language lesson was helpful, and we'll see you in the next lesson.